Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm gonna review this old legendary GTX 690 and its performance in 2019. But before that, please don't forget to subscribe down below and thank you for watching. Alrighty then, let me go over the specs of this monster here. This is the PNY GTX 690 reference edition, which originally came out over 7 years ago, back in April of 2012, and it retailed for $1,000. This monster featured dual GPUs on a single board, which is essentially two GTX 680s on one board, which gave you the option to run in single or SLI mode. Also, it featured PCI Express 3.0. For the core clock, we have 915 megahertz, boost clock 1019 megahertz, CUDA cores 3072, effective memory clock 6008 megahertz, total memory size 4 gigabytes of VRAM, memory interface 512-bit, memory type GDDR5. For the ports, we have one mini display port and 3 DVI ports. Also, this bad boy required minimum of 650 watt power supply and two 8-pin connectors. Of course, you don't want to run this right at 650 watts. You definitely want at least 750 watt power supply, a really good brand, and a at least 80 plus rated. You never want to keep it that close on a powerful card like this. Along with this card, let me go over really quickly the rig that I'm going to be using to test out this beast. I am using an equally old system here that also came out around 2012, which featured an Intel i7 7700K clocked at 4.7 gigahertz with a Gigabyte GAZ77X UD5H motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR3 2400 megahertz RAM, and it's water cooled. Also, I am using a Rosewill 1000 watt semi-modular 80 plus bronze rated power supply, and 256 gigabyte Evo 840 SSD drive for the main, and 1 terabyte of Western Digital mechanical drive for extra storage. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be using. I feel like that's more than enough to get the most out of this card. Definitely enough to handle the power of this monster. Alright, so let me go over the kind of performance you could expect from the gaming monster like this. Now, in the SLI compatible games, you could expect performance on par with a GTX 1070. And of course, for the majority games out there that don't support SLI, you could look for performance on par with a GTX 1050 Ti, which is still, in my opinion, not a bad deal, as I only purchased this bad boy for $70 on eBay. Finally, the price on this monster came way down, and you could expect to purchase this between $70 to $100 nowadays. And I think for this price, it's really worth it, even if you could get a handful of games to work, on par with a GTX 1070. Now, unfortunately, this thing is only limited to 2 gigs of VRAM, and there is some limitation to it. As far as 1080p gaming, that's not a problem, but if you go higher to 4K resolution, and this thing does handle games on 4K resolution, of course the SLI compatible ones, there is a limit to it. Basically, you're maxed out on medium settings on 4K, which is still not bad, but if you go anything above medium settings on 4K, and that's when thing just freezes up, and that's you just can't play it. I guess just a limitation of the 2 gigs of VRAM. But other than that, if you don't mind playing 4K on medium or lower settings, this is definitely the card for you. Now, in the past, I've seen a lot of negative reviews on this card years ago or even recent. In my opinion, I believe that this card wasn't properly tested out there, because it has a lot of potential, and I got really good results on many games. There is still some new games out there that do support SLI, and there's tons that are old games that do support SLI also. So you know, to get such a good performance, in my opinion, for such low cost, I think it's worth looking at this card. Of course, one thing you do gonna want to have is a good power supply. This is not gonna be a good card for a little budget small build with a small power supply. Definitely recommend like a 750 watt power supply or higher, with good rating on it and good brand. But other than that, this thing is still quite amazing. And when it comes to getting this thing to work with the SLI compatible games, there's some little workaround that you have to do, but I think it's kind of easy. There's a science to it. Sometimes you're going to need to use the NVIDIA inspector. Sometimes you need to change the settings around just to get the both GPUs to be fully utilized. Like you want to be at somewhere above 80% usage in game, and that's how you know you're fully getting all the power out of this card when it's running in SLI mode. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Yeah, that's really pretty much it. All there's left to do is test out this monster and see how well it does in some of the gaming test benchmarks that I'm going to show you today. So stay tuned. Okay, so the first game we're going to test out is Battlefield 5. Definitely one of the better games out there to utilize SLI. But in order for you to get that going, you do need to create a profile in NVIDIA Inspector. It's very easy to do, and it's definitely worth the performance. I also have a quick tutorial in my channel, so be sure to check it out, how to set up the profile for Battlefield 5, and it works really good with no issues at all. So the first thing we're gonna do is run this on 1080p resolution, and then we're gonna attempt to run it at 4K, hopefully on low to medium settings, to see if it's even playable at all. Also pay attention on the GPU usages. You want to be in the 90s in order for you to fully utilize the SLI technology. That's how you know you did everything right and you're getting the most out of the graphics card. So without further ado, let's begin.
improviser. Je me disais, d'aimer, faut trouver quelque chose. Trouve un moyen pour que ça marche.
Now the next game I'm going to test out is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, another well optimized game for SLI. This one does support it natively. You just have to use DirectX 12 in order for the SLI to work. So let's take a look at the settings. We're going to start off once again with 1080p and do an attempt to try to get it to work on 4K on low to medium settings.
Jonah, there's a mural here. It shows a box. Inscription says, the silver box of Isha. That must be what's in the hidden city. This is a Maya myth. Shit. Jonah, get to higher ground.
Oh no, you took it, didn't you?
Hurry.
Your other way. No. Doctor Dominguez and more men. Apparently we got one looking to work. Yeah, that's what the reinforcements are for.
Yes, I heard something. Dominguez is coming tonight. I get it. What I'm telling you is the rain is gonna flood it. What the fuck do you think I'm doing? Checking the water pump right now.
Okay, let's make sure everything's copacetic here. That's good. Yeah. Okay.
Not doing that pump. Answer me. You finished with that pump yet? This isn't time for games, shithead. You stuck in the elevator? Operation Blackout has been initiated. None of the local workers leave this site alive. Ah, fuck. sure the perimeter's secure.
I don't know. I hear the readings are off the charts.
Let's just make sure the perimeter is secure when Commander Rourke gets here.
We'll be ready.
Inspectors are coming. Be ready. Status? Almost loaded. Copy that.
Oh, that's his team. I guess has to wait for us when he gets here. It's not gonna be pretty. Ready to wait.
Gunshots get reported. Rourke and the reinforcements are on the way. I want everything ready.
Reports of more gunfire. Copy.
Shit, there's more of them.
Hold up a second.
You're coming in.
Okay, the next game we're gonna test out is Far Cry New Dawn, which does natively support SLI, and it works pretty well. The only thing is the GPUs are being only utilized around 80 to 85%, but the results are still good, especially on 1080p resolution. So let's take a look.
Traffic's wins attention. Sorry. That's it.
That was it. You're the one from the train. That cult up north spread this whole valley before the collapse. Lowlife called Joseph led them. Now they've gone all hippy-dippy and will forget their killing days. You put that down! Watch where you point at!
Now for the last game, I'm going to test out the good old classic Witcher 3, which I'm sure you're all aware does support SLI really well. Probably one of the best games that supports SLI. Just want to show you how well it runs. Let's take a look at the settings.
Let's go. It's gotta be. Come on.
Well, that's it. as you could see, there's still plenty of juice left in this old GTX 690. Definitely still useful as long as you know how to use it correctly. So yeah, that concludes the test in this video. Don't forget to subscribe and down below and leave any comments and have any questions. I will be sure to answer you as quickly as I can. So thank you for watching.